Woburn. I'm your host, Samantha Stone, and I have a different environment today. I'm super excited. We are recording from the mayor's office, and from my new desk as head of community outreach and communications. And I'm really, really thrilled to do our first Today in Woburn with Mayor Concannon, officially in his new capacity as our mayor. Welcome, Mike.
Good evening, Samantha. How are you?
Good. And boy, did you jump into the fire, literally. Fire, explosion, snowstorm, flooding rains. It's been quite a first few days.
Yes, it has. It's been an eventful 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, last night, I was sworn in. And I was joking the other day, the 14 days sometimes feel like 14 months. We've crammed a lot in. But it's been very interesting, very rewarding, and I'm liking the job more and more each day.
Well, I'm excited to hear that, as I'm sure all of us are. I am actually curious, I know you were very familiar with Woburn city government. You were in city council for a number of years and you're very active in the community, but holding the seat of the mayor is different than the other things that you've done. In this first few days, 2 weeks that you've been here, tell us a little bit about what you found to be surprising or interesting or unexpected.
Good question. So as we've said, there's been a lot in the last couple of weeks. I've got to see up close and personal, even more than before, how well our city government works and the great service that our police, fire, DPW, and all of our team, offer to our community. As you said, we've had fires, explosions, crashes, snowstorms, flooding. I actually, just to be sure, I checked in to see when the locusts were arriving. And it turns out that we are in the 17-year cycle for cicadas / locusts for 2024. So I think we'll be ready for that. And after having spent 2 weeks up close and personal with our team, I have all the confidence in the world that they can handle whatever comes at them. I did know that already. I had the 10 years experience on the council. And of course, I had my lifetime living here in Woburn and being familiar and friendly with many of the folks who deliver these services. But I am happy to report that my expectations of their ability to deliver have been met these last 2 weeks and then some. So I've learned more than I knew in terms of the depth of the effort and the work and the issues that present. But it's all been satisfying and fulfilling, and I have tremendous faith in our city team.
Well, I know in the short amount of time that I've been in the office and meeting with folks as a resident, obviously I interacted with some of the people on the team. And as the Today in Woburn host, I got to interview many people across the city. But just sitting in this new role, which we'll talk about in a second, I've been really impressed how much everybody truly cares about our residents and our community. And those things I thought I felt before are still true when the doors closed.
Yes.
And that's kind of special. And I feel really fortunate to be a part of that.
We're so happy you're here, Samantha. It was my first decision, my first assignment. I was grateful for the support of Mayor Galvin and the council. Even before I got here, they had seen the benefit to this position. And, obviously they all know you and they knew you'd do a tremendous job. And just in the first 2 weeks, I could not be happier with the product and what you bring to the table in terms of serving our community. Anyone who, was at the inaugural or maybe downloaded or watched on YouTube, they heard a pretty lengthy speech by me about service. And that's what it's all about. That's why we're here. And having you come on board to assist us has been tremendous. I know there have been dozens of folks already that have personally benefited from you sitting in that seat and helping them out. So I think at a minimum, you'd have to say I'm 1 for 1 in terms of my batting average and my selections.
Well, selfishly, I think you did a great job. But all joking aside, this is really a special thing. And I think it was really important that this was a priority for you and for our community to help make sure people are connected to the resources available. And over the coming weeks and months, we'll talk a lot more about what that will look like and all of those things.
Right.
But I'm thrilled to be here and just be starting that work. One of the things that we do in the community outreach role is help people who are something as simple as I want a tree in my street. How do I find out what to do there? We've got wires down and I've reported it, but Eversource hasn't cleaned them up yet. What should I do? I was just evicted from my house and I need help finding an emergency shelter and all of those things. Some of those things are affected by state funding, and there has been a lot of discussion and talk, and some communities have started to see some state money that had been earmarked. So it's not that money that was given in the budget was taken away, but some earmarks that had hoped and expected and people were planning on for some investments have started to be pulled back. Has Woburn been affected by any of that yet, and what might we anticipate?
So you're referencing the recent 9C cuts, as they're called, at state government level. Governor Healy felt the need, based on the decrease in revenues over the last several months, to adjust the fiscal year 24 budget for the state. Fortunately, local aid in terms of schools and roadways, that is untouched. We can expect to receive the amount that we had budgeted and counted on. You're referencing some other particular cuts in terms of programs and grants. We are still exploring the specific impacts here to Woburn. I know there were some earmarks and some reductions in available grant funding that could impact a couple of our smaller economic development projects. But I think we're going to be okay. If things remain the way they are and there are no additional cuts, I think we will be okay. We do continue to dig deep into those line item cuts to see what impacts we would have here in Woburn, but right now it appears minimal. So hopefully that continues through the end of the fiscal year.
That's good. That's very good news for us, and I'm glad to hear that. One of the things that we talked about last year and during the mayoral forums and throughout the election and just across the committee in general is we know that there was a big investment in our schools, and there's a school plan. We hired an outside organization to sort of do an assessment about where we should prioritize investments in our building and our infrastructure for schools. There's a lot there. It's not a quick decision. What happens next with that information?
Sure. So there was a feasibility study that was commissioned last year, and we got the results in the fall. We asked for a comprehensive evaluation of the status of all of our school facilities, from the high school down to all the elementary schools, obviously including the middle schools. And we got a pretty comprehensive assessment that tells us these buildings need some work. Obviously, some of the newer buildings, not as drastic. Some of our older buildings, particularly the Alta Vista School in North Woburn, the Linscott, as well as the two middle schools, they need some work. So we received this voluminous report, almost 1,000 pages of information, and as well as suggestions and options on how to deal with that information. So the school committee received that report. They sent it to their resources subcommittee. They had a couple of meetings before the holidays, and I attended those meetings as the mayor-elect, and we had some discussions about path forward. It's a lot of information, and it's a big study that is going to need to be digested, processed, shared with the public, and then used to create the path forward. So first step was to have a public forum in December, which we did at the Joyce, just to kind of share the information and get it out there and make it part of the public domain, the discussion. And then the next steps would be for the school committee to create an ad hoc committee of sorts that would actually digest the information and come up with a couple of paths forward, some recommendations, and a way to implement those suggestions. So we had a meeting the other day here in my office with the school committee chair, Andrew Lipsett, and the city council president, Jeff Dillon, to talk about what that ad hoc committee might look like, who would be on the committee, what their scope would be. And we kind of brainstormed a little bit. And Andrew Lipsett was then to go back to the school committee, give them an update on our discussions, and see how they would like to proceed. My expectation is that they will send an invitation to the city council for President Dillon to offer a couple of names to serve on the committee. There's obviously a few positions here in city government who would naturally fit on that committee, the auditor, obviously the superintendent of schools, a couple of school committee members. So the idea would be that ad hoc committee, I don't know, somewhere between 9 and 15 members, perhaps, including community members, business members, parents, teachers, union reps, perhaps. The idea is that those folks would take this 1,000-page report, try to make some sense of it, and try to come up with certain paths forward, options that the community could look at. Part of that process would be involving the community, public hearings, public meetings, inviting anyone who's interested to come in and offer their thoughts on what they think we should do in terms of next steps. So I expect the school committee will be working on that piece in the next several weeks. And then hopefully soon enough, that ad hoc committee would get to work and start digesting that information and offering the public a chance to weigh in. And all the while that is happening, the report also pointed out to us some more immediate needs in some of our buildings. So we'll be taking a look at those as we develop the capital improvement plan heading forward into the next fiscal year. And that process begins as soon as the end of this month. So that's where we stand right now in terms of the school feasibility study and its implementation. It's not going to be something that we can accomplish overnight. Even just tackling the information is going to take a while. And then there's going to have to be a multi-year plan that gets us where we need to be in terms of bringing these facilities back up to speed. So that's the update on that.
Thank you so much. It is a really important thing for our community, for those folks who have students in the schools, but just for us in general, right? It affects our property values, it affects our taxes, it affects our students, it affects many, many things across the city. So that will be an important one. And as those public forums happen, we'll be sure to talk about those and let people know where they can participate. I know there's already even, I think, been one meeting where they shared some of the summary of the output. One of the other things that I know is important to you is to make sure that we create sort of a culture of service across our city. You talked a lot about that in your inauguration speech, which I think really resonated with a lot of people. And one way people serve in our committee is on boards and commissions across the city and help out. And we do have, we have lots of people who have filled those seats, but there are some open seats across some of those boards and commissions. What's the process you're going through to get those filled?
Sure. So to your point, if folks want to check out the City of Woburn website and just do a quick search on boards and commissions, they'll see a complete listing of all of the boards and commissions that currently operate here in the city. And there's detailed information in terms of the current membership and makeup of those boards, as well as the expiration date of the terms of service for those folks. And you'll note that the expiration dates highlighted in red are those positions where the incumbent, they're a holdover, essentially. Their term may have expired, but they have not been replaced. So they continue to serve until they're reappointed or there is a new member appointed in their place. So I would encourage folks to take a look at those boards and commissions. And if there's something in particular that they are interested in, by all means, reach out. As I said, they'll note that the members highlighted in red, those would be the ones that would be looking to either reappoint those folks or to appoint a new member in their place. So I would encourage folks to focus on those particular spots. And if they want to send me here in the office an email with a letter of interest and a resume, by all means, we will consider all of those. There are some positions in city government and a couple of particular boards where a certain level of expertise would benefit the board, some more technical than others, and some types of backgrounds that, we may be looking for, someone who's been in that field for a period of time. But by all means, we're casting a wide net. There's a couple of them that I'd like to fill pretty quickly. Folks that, while I was out campaigning and knocking doors and talking about, ways people can help and serve, there were folks who reached out to me back then and said, "Hey, if it happens, could you please consider me for such and such?" And I am doing that right now. I'm in the process. And there's a couple of folks that I've kind of settled on for those particular positions, and I'm going to put them forward to the council. But as you say, the idea would be to cast a wide net and have folks step up and express their interest. And the idea is to try to find a way to match the interest with the need, and allow those folks to contribute even more to their city than they might otherwise, if these boards and commissions didn't exist. So I'm actively seeking folks who want to help our city.
I love that. And I will just mention this because when I did a search, if you look at boards and commissions on the website, there are some personnel listing. It's actually not as accurate as PDF file. So it sounds a little bit unusual, but go ahead and do that search that Mike mentioned, because it'll pull up a PDF file. I think it's dated from September, might be the most recent one. So you'll get the information that also includes the expiration dates, because that's the only place that you'll find that. And I thought it was really interesting. I was familiar with many of them, but not all of them. So it was helpful for us to take a look.
There's a few boards and commissions that have a dozen or more members, and we're not fully staffed. So by all means, there's ways for folks to step up. As I said, there's some positions with particular technical expertise, and then there's other positions where, if you just love living in Woburn and you want to help, we can find a way for you to help.
I love that. We will have lots of opportunities for people to help on boards and commissions and other ways as well. So that's really important. As you look past the first couple of weeks, which is sort of just, getting entrenched and meeting with the team and, your new capacity and all the things that are going on day to day, what are your priorities for the next few weeks as you settle into your position as mayor?
Sure. As I said, while campaigning and in every conversation I had in the last year, one of my goals is to try to restore a positive culture between and amongst city government and its residents. I think there's room for improvement, and I'm trying to work on that. I've met with every department head. I met with the group collectively the other day. We had a nice introductory meeting where we laid out expectations, and I thought it went very well. I've also met with members of the workforce, as well as their union reps. And so far, all these conversations have been very positive. I think folks feel like this is an opportunity to start anew. And my goal is to try to reinvigorate the culture here and try to get folks to feel appreciated, valued, part of the team, buy into the collective message of public service. Everybody who works for the city of Woburn is a public servant. They should be here for the right reason. I believe they are, and I believe they do get it. And as I said earlier at the beginning of the discussion here, I've had a chance to see these folks in action, and I know how hard they're working. I've been to crashes, fires, snow issues, flooding issues. And I've tried to take the opportunity to convey to those folks delivering those services that they are appreciated, that they're valued. I mean, I've gone out during the snowstorms. I've been to the fires. I went to the flooding scenes. I've been to the fire stations, the police stations, the DPW, the library. I've tried to let these folks know that their efforts are appreciated. And this first month or two, I'm hoping to lay a solid foundation where they understand where I'm coming from. They understand my expectations, and they know that I appreciate their efforts. So that's my goal in this first few months, 100 days or so.
Great. We've had lots of opportunity to start doing that. So I'm grateful for that. So I want to let all of you who are watching know that we will continue to do weekly shows. Mike pledged early in his campaign to continue to do that. I'm super appreciative, as I always have been, for all the folks who come on and help open communicate. I also want to let you know that we will be hosting a town hall on the 15th of February. And in that town hall will be your chance to ask questions directly of the mayor. He will have short opening remarks, and we promise it will be short. Because really,
I've been accused of being somewhat wordy at times, but I will try to be brief.
No, I think often we want to know what you're thinking and your point of view about it. In this particular case, we really want this to be an open forum. If we have a lot of people participate and a lot of questions, we'll go a full hour. If we don't, it'll be shorter, but we hope that many people will attend, because if we see interest, we'll continue to do those on an ongoing basis. So we'll send out more information about that, but definitely keep the 15th in mind. It will be here in the council chambers in City Hall, and we hope to see many of you there. As always, please continue to take good care of each other.